Hi, my name is Jeremiah Betts, and today's date is June 25th, 2021, and the password to this speech is purple. I'd like you to begin by putting yourself in the mind of a pit bull. Now, throughout news media and news outlets, you might be thinking pit bulls, they're classified as a dangerous breed, a danger to society. But I'd like you to put yourself into their minds and try to explain yourself as to why you aren't dangerous and why you aren't vicious to today's society. It's pretty hard, right? Well, after 30 years, Denver, a large city in Colorado, has overturned the pit bull ban that had lasted for over 30 years. Now, the ballot results, although promising, turned out to be a 66% in yes and 33% in no, you shouldn't have pit bulls. Now, although this is a step forward, Denver has allowed only up to 2 pit bulls per family, and now, because of this ballot and because of the news outlets, the pit bulls within the Denver area are now being watched carefully to make sure that they aren't a vicious breed. The ordinance banning ownership of pit bulls began and was enacted in 1989 after a number of people had been attacked. So this begs the question, why was a singular breed of dog the only one that was discriminated against? Think about it. Throughout that time, the rabies were out of control with dogs, and I'm sure if we were going to look at German Shepherds, it would equate to the same number of attacks. Nonetheless, but why are pit bulls also being determined as a dangerous breed? And how does nurture versus nature come into play for this particular instance? Now, for most of us, we have had or currently have a pet that means the world to us. So imagine if your pet was classified and banned because it was characterized as being a dangerous breed because of a rise of attacks with that particular breed. Imagine having to get rid of your family member, pet, because the world's opinion says that it's a dangerous to have in today's society. Now, I have volunteered at multiple adoption agencies and animal clinics within the Colorado State area, and to tell you the truth, most of the notorious dangerous animals were some of the most loving and caring and most compassionate animals I have ever met. So this brings to the discussion, discrimination on animals, more specifically on domestic animals, is growing in today's society. And it's our responsibility to understand the differences between both nurture and nature and then develop opinion about it upon that subject. Now, although wild animals are genetically determined not to be tolerant of animals due to their nature, domestic animals over time have become more tolerable of humans, but are still classified as wild. So if all animals are wild in the world, why aren't all of them banned? What's the difference between owning a tiger that is legal or unregulated in 8 states in the United States than owning a pit bull? Well, throughout these next 3 points, I'd like to discuss the differences between both nurture and nature for domestic animals specifically. Now, nurture refers to all of the genes and hereditary factors that influence who we are, whereas nurture refers to all of the environmental variables that impact who we are. So, think about humans with intelligence. Were humans born to understand the English language? No. Over years of practice and self-teaching, we were unable to understand the English language. Were humans born to understand the proper calculus with all of the algorithms attached to that specific mathematics? No. Over years of schooling, we were able to understand and pick that up. The same goes for domestic animals that are tolerable with humans. Take their environment into consideration before acting. If the animal is presented in a situation where they need to fight, they will fight. But if the animal is presented in a loving environment, the animal will be loving. Now, one way to look at nature where it does apply to animals is through the genetics. One way nature does affect in terms of the health is in terms of health in a person. A study completed in 2002 looked at diabetes, diet, and the cardiovascular disease in humans. It was determined if the parents were raised during a time of famine, their offspring would also be affected by that. This is one way nature, through genetics, can be placed onto others, but this is not their personality, which is not what this speech is about. So now that we understand the difference between genetics, what you are inherently born with, and nurture, what you are through experience, we can start taking a look at the domestic animals. So, if we were to place a dog into a family that was solely into dog fighting, and the dog was born into a dog fighting environment, of course the dog would learn to hate other animals, other dogs, because they are taught to fight them. Now, if a dog was placed into a home filled with love and compassion, then that dog will also show love and compassion. Where nature comes into play can be with its health. If the dog is a larger pup, that means that they probably have a decreased lifetime because of their genetics, whereas a smaller pup may live longer because of their genetics. So now that we understand the differences between nurture and nature, I hope we as a society can prevent animals from being discriminated against, not because of their nature and genetics, but because of the way they were nurtured throughout their life.